In today's video, we're going to be talking about drop shotting. We're going to be talking about one of my favorite baits. It's the 6th Sense glitch drop shot bait. I'm going to be talking to you guys about my 2 favorite ways to rig up the glitch to drop shot. I'm going to talk about my line, the rod, the reel, everything that I use to catch those drop shot fish. The first thing I want to talk about is when to fish the drop shot. Sometimes we're going to be able to catch them on those crankbaits. Sometimes we're going to catch them on the spinner baits, jigs, and stuff like that. However, there are times where the fish just don't seem to want to bite any of those bigger baits, those reaction baits, and it's time to go finesse them. And that's when the drop shot's really going to shine. When it comes to drop shotting, I really think having the right equipment is very, very key. The first thing I want to talk to you guys about are the 2 different rods that I primarily use to throw a drop shot. The first one, and my favorite one to drop shot with, is the 6th Sense Custom USA rod. This thing is super light, it's super sensitive, and there's just something about the way the bend of this rod is when you get that fish hooked. They get hooked really well, and that hook does not come out. I've fished in the past with other rods, and I've lost drop shot fish, and after having this rod, I've come to realize that maybe the tip of those other rods was a little bit too fast, and those fish just weren't getting hooked right, and they get leverage on that hook, and for whatever reason, they were able to throw that hook on the way back to the boat. So the next rod that I'm going to be drop shotting with is the 6th Sense 7.2 medium mod Lux rod. I really like this rod for a lot of different things, and this was one of my go-to rods to drop shot with prior to 6th Sense coming out with that Custom USA. I've transitioned over to primarily using the Custom USA for my drop shotting, but I wanted to give you guys another little bit less expensive rod option that's perfect for drop shotting. This one is the one that I go to. I've been fishing it for a long time, caught a lot of fish on this rod in particular, and it's just one that I have a lot of confidence in, and I'm confident that if you guys go and get this one for your drop shotting, you're gonna be happy with it as well. You wanna go with a good quality spinning reel. I'd say get the best one that you can afford. You don't have to get one that's $1,000 or $600 or anything like that, but get the best one that you can afford. A lot of times with spinning reels, you're gonna get what you pay for. And you need something that's gonna have a good quality drag system, one that's not gonna stick, because if that drag sticks on a good fish, it's gonna break you off and it's gonna lead to some heartbreak. So if you can get a quality spinning reel, I highly recommend it. Now when it comes to the size spinning reel that I use a 2500 or a 3000 size spinning reel. I think that that's where you want to be with most bass fishing scenarios. That 3000 is going to pull in a little bit more line than 2500. It is very minimal, so if you can get one between that 25 or 3000, I think you're going to be set. Now when it comes to the different conditions that we come across when we're drop shotting, sometimes we don't have a lot of cover, other times we have a lot of cover. When we're fishing around those sparse cover situations, maybe it's just sand, maybe it's just a little chunk rock, I'm gonna go with a nose hook option like this. I'm gonna get my 6 Sense drop shot hook and pair it up with that glitch. And then I'm gonna get a 6 Sense tungsten drop shot weight. I prefer tungsten, I think it's a little bit more sensitive, and you're gonna be able to feel everything down on the bottom just a little bit better. Now when it comes to situations where the cover's a little bit more thick and you gotta have something weedless, I like to use a strength shake worm hook. Light wire is key. And what I do is I Texas rig it, but then I just skin hook that bait, because when that fish bites, that hook comes out just like that, and you get a good hook into that fish. So even though you need to have a weedless presentation, you're gonna have a little bit of a thicker body on this glitch. When you skin hook this bait right there on the side, you're gonna get good hookup ratios, even though you have that Texas rig, you got plastic covering that hook point, and you have some of those lighter action rods that you're gonna be fishing with the drop shot. But when you skin hook it like that, your hookup ratios are gonna go way, way up. So there's always questions about how far away from my hook should my drop shot weight be. I think about 1 foot is about the best place to start. Now, if you know those fish are hugged down on the bottom, then you might want to go with a shorter distance between the hook and the weight. Then if you can tell if those fish are up off the bottom, then maybe you're going to want to go with, you know, anything from 18 inches to 2 feet, depending upon how far away those fish are from the bottom. But 1 foot is a good place to start. Now when it comes to the line that I use for my drop shot, I do braid fluorocarbon leader. I really like a 10-pound test braided line for my main line to a 6 to 8 pound test fluorocarbon leader. I use a uni to uni knot to connect the braided line to my fluorocarbon line. Another good option is the FG knot. The uni to uni is a little bit easier to tie, and it's just one that I've been tying for years. Now, what I like to do to get my distance of my leader length is basically when I get done tying that connection knot, I reel my fluorocarbon until I get just below this first guide on my spinning rod. That gives me about 10 to 14 feet of line, so that way I don't feel like those fish are gonna get line shy from my braid or anything like that. I also like to go with these higher visibility braided lines because it helps me to see those that little bite off the top of the water. You have that higher visibility line just sitting right on top of the water, and sometimes these bites can be so subtle that you don't feel it in the rod. You just see your line tick, you see your line move, and having that little bit higher visibility line can help you see that a little bit easier. A lot of times when I'm fishing the drop shot, I'm just gonna cast it out. I'm gonna let that thing sink all the way to the bottom. And I think the key to the drop shot a lot of times is less is more. A lot of times people overwork their drop shot. They're giving it a lot of shakes, when in reality, all you need to do is just slow drags. It can be boring, guys, I understand that. And when it's kind of boring, that means you're probably fishing it right. If you're getting a lot of action and you're just really getting after it, you're giving it too much and you're missing bites. A lot of times that slow drag is all you need, maybe a little bit of a pop, a little bit of a shake, that's all you need. Less is more when it comes to working the drop shot. Couple other keys when you're fishing the drop shot is you want to fish it very, very slow. You want to feel every little rock down there. You want to feel every little tree branch, every little brush pile, and you're just going to work it real slow right over the top of that. If you're feeling rocks down there, you want to feel every single rock. Basically count them. As you come over, it's 1 rock, 2 rocks, 3 rocks. Count those rocks down there. If you're going slow enough to where you can count each individual rock, that's when you're fishing it correctly. A lot of times with the drop shot, you don't feel the bite right away. Sometimes you're gonna get that little tick tick, and then other times you're just gonna start to see your line swim off. You're gonna feel that pull, or you're just gonna reel up and it's just gonna have that mushy kind of heaviness to it. When you get those bites, don't set the hook right away. I like to give it just a second or two to kind of take my rod, take that line out a little bit, and then set the hook. Sometimes I feel like when you're worm fishing, if you set the hook right away, you take that bait away from the fish. They don't have it all the way, and you end up pulling that hook out rather than getting that hook all the way into their mouth, and then when you set the hook, you get them in the lip like you want. Right now, we're gonna go into my 3 favorite colors for these 6 cents glitch drop shot baits. The first one is going to be the mystical color. In super clear water, I think that mystical color really shines. I think it can imitate a bait fish. I think it can imitate a baby bluegill, and I think it can imitate a worm. It's got a nice greenish color on the top with a nice clearish white color on the bottom. That laminate color is just perfect. It can imitate a lot of different things. Another one that I really like is the goby color. This one's gonna be in a little bit more of those stained water situations. Not dirty water, guys. I'm talking about just a little bit of stain. A lot of you guys might still think it's clear water, but I really think that it needs a little bit of clarity for that bait to shine. It's got a nice brownish color on the top, a nice natural brown, and then it's gonna have that white on the bottom. I think that that bait can imitate a lot of different things as well, but if you're around smallmouth, if you have gobies in your lake, that's the color that you wanna go with first. Another one that I really like is almost like a combination of the two a little bit. Doesn't really have a lot of green in it, but it's not as dark as the goby color, and that's the whiskey dust color. I really like the whiskey dust color. If I'm going to a new lake, I'm either gonna go with one of those 3. The mystical, the goby, or the whiskey dust. Those are gonna be my first ones out of the box. I just really like those ones. I have a lot of confidence in it, and I've caught a lot of fish, so I know that if you go with some of those colors, you're gonna be able to get bit. One thing I want to let you guys know is that this bait is not just a smallmouth bait. A lot of guys think that just because it's little, that means smallmouth. No guys, this thing will get bit by largemouth as well. I catch largemouth all the time on this tiny little bait. When the fishing is tough, when you're on a really pressured lake, give this bait a shot. But this thing will catch both largemouth and smallmouth bass, and if you're around spotted bass, this thing is going to get bit too. So head over to the 6 Cents Fishing website, get yourself a quality drop shot setup, get some of those tungsten weights, get some of those glitches, get some of those drop shot hooks, and get out to the lake and go catch some fish, guys.